Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to our witnesses for your testimony today. As a daughter of a Green Beret who served in Vietnam as a Navy pilot and married to a Navy pilot and the mother of now 2 midshipmen, this is an issue that's super important to me, and it's just a great honor to be in the room today with you. It's fitting that our first hearing is about the threat that's facing our country from the Chinese Communist Party. Under Xi Jinping, China's seen a rapid military buildup, stolen valuable intellectual property, increased economic warfare, and increased aggression, including a surveillance balloon that we all saw drift across our nation last week. The CCP has demonstrated that it will continue to increase its influence and aggression far beyond the South China Sea. As you know, the Chinese military operates an overseas base in Djibouti, and a recent report from U.S. and China Economic and Security Review Commission stated that Chinese Communist Party's PLA is seeking sites for military installations in West Africa, a location that would give the Chinese military direct access to the Atlantic Ocean. So what, if anything, can the United States do to disincentivize nations, such as those in West Africa, from allowing the PLA to operate military installations within their countries? And are we contrasting their effort by contracting with foreign strategic ports and countries ourselves?
So, you know, we have to convince countries not to yield their sovereignty to China. And a case in point, I mentioned it before, is Hambantota Port in Sri Lanka. And we're seeing this weaponization of debt by the PRC against these countries. All we can do, well, not all, but what we can do, what we must do, is to ensure that we share with them the information about the ramifications of falling under this debt diplomacy that China is known for. But every country is sovereign, and they make their own independent decisions, just as we do. And that's why diplomats and diplomacy matter in those countries.
I think all of that is correct, and I would add, in addition to diplomacy, the purpose of diplomacy is to listen to what the needs and interests of those sovereign nations are. And I think we can do that without being overreactive to China's engagements in those areas. A lot of times there are other options for those nations. China just underbids and so wins contracts because it makes the most financial sense for the country at the time. A lot of that is actually self-harming for China because people are getting what they pay for and finding that it's not meeting their needs and their aspirations. And that word is spreading. And so we can continue to provide an alternative, understanding that that alternative might not always be accepted by those nations and that that's not always a terrible outcome in terms of the overall strategic relationship.
And along those same lines, I'm just wondering about the level of confidence and trust that all countries in the world have, but especially our allies out there have. You know, we watched a chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. We've seen our response to Russia and the Ukraine, and we even watched the response of having a surveillance balloon drift across our country. So, and then listening to you talk about just the slowness in filling the ambassador positions and this lack of strategic clarity we have, and you know, the diplomacy matters, and we've canceled these diplomatic meetings, and I agree with you very much so. So I just wonder if you both could comment about the level of confidence that is out there from not only our NATO allies, but other allies in the region.
So I'll start by simply saying that I think the level of confidence in the United States is on the rise internationally, primarily in the recent past due to Ukraine. I think the American response, the bipartisan American response to Ukraine, surprised a lot of people. Most assuredly, it surprised Russia, and it galvanized our European and NATO allies to do more. So we see Germany, for example, which has increased its, or stated its intent to increase its defense budget to over 2%, which we have been trying to do since NATO began, and now they're doing it. And so there's that. And then on the other side is China's own bad behavior, which is causing countries like Taiwan, South Korea, Japan, and others to view China differently and to understand the kind of partner that China is. And I think that's gone a long way to moving countries away from the Chinese orbit into the orbit of free nations.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I yield back.